This morning, protesters are returning to several Tim Hortons. Demonstrators plan on handing out Valentine's Day cards and information about new workers' rights from the Ministry of Labour. Now, this is just the latest protest. Several have been held since some franchisees slashed workers' benefits and breaks in response to the minimum wage hike. Good morning. Welcome to the morning show. This morning, protesters are returning to several Tim Hortons. This time, they've got Valentine's Day cards and a message for workers. Our Marianne Demain is outside the location on Bloor Street and Bedford with more on that message. Marianne.
Good morning, Carolyn. Yeah, today's a day of action, February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, but people are gathering here at this location anyway, and several others across the province to hand out Valentine's Day cards. Deena is with me now this morning, so tell us what you're planning to do.
Yeah, so we're here today to show the love and respect that we have for workers at Tim Hortons. We believe that all workers at this corporation should be treated fairly. We think the corporation isn't doing its job, and so if they're not prepared to do their job, we are as customers. I like my steep tea, I like my apple fritter just like everyone else, and I think it's shameful that the corporation has responded to the minimum wage increase by cutting meal breaks, by making workers start to pay for uniforms, by cutting hours, by taking away tips. This is terrible. So what's really exciting today is that we have 250 Tim Hortons stores being visited by customers, by people who are outraged by the actions of this corporation.
And so once you get a big enough crowd, you'll be going in with these chocolates and
Yes.
this Valentine's. What do you think the reaction from the workers will be?
Well, I hope that they, and they have in the previous, because this is not the first time we've gone in, but most workers are very supportive. They're not allowed to talk to us. They're not allowed to, many of them have had to sign gag orders to not speak about what they're doing, what the corporation is doing. And so, unfortunately, they're not able to speak freely about how they feel. But that's why we've been getting calls at the Workers' Action Centre about the cuts that are happening, and that's why we're here today to stand up for them and to show them some respect.
All right, Deena, thanks so much for talking to us this morning. And these are all the people. They're waiting for a bigger group to gather as well. And not just this location, other ones across the city and the province will be here as well. Chris Buckley from the Ontario Federation of Labour will also be here this morning. We'll be talking to him as well. Carolyn, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Marianne. This morning, protesters are returning to several Tim Hortons locations. This time, they've got Valentine's Day cards and a message for workers. Our Marianne Demain is outside the location on Bloor and Bedford Road with more on this message. Marianne.
Good morning, Carolyn. Yeah, they're trying to show some love to the workers of Tim Hortons, and so they were at this location here on Bloor Street with a message. And joining me now is Chris Buckley from the Ontario Federation of Labour. You had a Valentine for them and a message.
Absolutely. We're at over 250 locations across the province today to show Tim Hortons workers that we're here to support them. You know, as of January the 1st, minimum wage was increased, and right off the get-go, a number of Tim Hortons locations started putting their hands in workers' pockets and withdrawing paid breaks, paid lunches, and any other benefits they were enjoying. That's absolutely spiteful. You know, we fought long and hard to convince the government to increase minimum wage, to improve the Employment Standards Act, to improve the Labour Relations Act, and right off the get-go, there are some Tim Hortons locations that are being spiteful and vindictive to workers. So we're here to spread the love to Tim Hortons workers right across the province of Ontario, that the labour movement is here to support them. Whether these workers belong to a union or not, they deserve to have respect and dignity in their workplace. And to any other bad boss across the province of Ontario, we're going to caution these bad bosses to get their hands out of workers' pockets, pay them accordingly, treat them with respect and dignity, or we're coming after them as well. We worked too hard for the government to introduce Bill 148 to let some bad bosses disrespect workers.
And so it's a level of disrespect, you say, but are they actually doing anything illegal?
In some cases, they're not doing anything illegal, but you know, to increase the minimum wage to $14 an hour, that's still not a great wage. You can't purchase a house in this area for $14 an hour. You can't have any major purchases. $14 an hour is a step in the right direction on behalf of the government, but to bad bosses, they need to back off and treat workers with respect and dignity, because every worker in the province of Ontario deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. And I'm not saying that all franchises are bad. I'm not saying that all bosses are bad, but to the ones that are being vindictive, it's time for them to pull back.
And you saw some smiles when you had that Valentine's and the chocolates for the workers inside.
How often do workers get thanked? It doesn't take a lot to thank workers, regardless of where they are in this province, and especially at Tim Hortons. This is a staple of our economy. This is the fabric of our country, and these workers deserve to be recognized, they deserve to be thanked, and most importantly, they should know that the labor movement has their back.
All right, Chris Buckley, thanks so much for talking to us this morning. And of course, it's not just this location, Carolyn, it's multiple 200 or so plus 200 plus locations across the province that they'll be giving these Valentines to the workers today. I'll send it back to you, Carolyn.
All right, thank you, Marianne.
Protesters were back at a number of Tim Hortons, but this morning they had a special message for workers. Marianne Demain has more.
With Valentines and chocolate in hand, workers' rights advocates walked into this Bloor Street Tim Hortons to show workers some love.
We believe that all workers at this corporation should be treated fairly.
They want to reverse what they say are clawbacks at some Tim Hortons locations ever since the minimum wage increase took effect in January.
And right off the get-go, a number of Tim Hortons locations started putting their hands in workers' pockets and withdrawing paid breaks, paid lunches, and any other benefits they were enjoying. That's absolutely spiteful.
So after ordering a morning coffee,
so I'd like to give you these chocolates.
The Ontario Federation of Labour, along with the Workers' Action Centre, surprised workers with the cards and candy, professing support for the workers and calling out parent company Restaurant Brands International and Tim Hortons to respect its workers.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. But this isn't the first time they've done something like this. It all began with No Timmy's Tuesday, asking customers to boycott Tim Hortons. That led to protests outside of Tim Hortons stores across the province. Clawing back on paid breaks and paid uniforms isn't illegal, but Tim Hortons has said that the allegations against some franchise locations goes against the company's values. Customers lining up to place their order this morning say they support this day of action.
I'm in favor of it. It's a good thing, I think. Yeah.
I think they're absolutely good. The workers have the right to work hard. They have to get paid a little bit more.
Advocates will be handing out these Valentine cards at more than 200 Tim Hortons locations across the country.
And to any other bad boss across the province of Ontario, we're going to caution these bad bosses to get their hands out of workers' pockets, pay them accordingly, treat them with respect and dignity, or we're coming after them as well.
Marianne Demain, Global News.
It's not officially Valentine's Day until tomorrow, but workers at Tim Hortons are already feeling the love from labor activists. The Ontario Federation of Labour helped organize this day of action, happening at more than 200 Tim Hortons locations across the province. Those participating are handing out Valentines to show their support for workers' rights under the recently raised minimum wage. That move by the provincial government resulted in some Tim Hortons employees facing the threat of cuts to breaks and benefits.
We fought long and hard for the government to increase the minimum wage, to improve employment standards and labor law, and right off the get-go at the first of the year, RBI International, some of their locations, some franchises, dipped into workers' pockets and withdrew benefits, withdrew paid breaks and lunches, and that is totally vindictive.
The minimum wage in Ontario increased to $14 an hour at the beginning of this year. It will go up again to $15 an hour in 2019.